What's up, soccer friends? Welcome to Kickback Committee's Open Mic. I'm your host, Susannah Fuller. So glad to have you all here. If you're new to Open Mic, well, welcome. I'm going to tell you what we're all about. I'm basically having conversations with some of my friends in the sports media world who have some sort of connection to the beautiful game. And we've chatted with some really awesome guests, Charlotte Wilder of the Sports Gossip Show, Mike Ryan of Le Batard. Check out all our other episodes. They're really, really fun conversations. But we basically talk about their kind of sports journeys and try to find the soccer through lines within those journeys. And we just have a lot of fun while we're doing it too. So as a reminder, Open Mic is just one of the podcasts that fall under our Kickback Soccer Media umbrella. We've got Soccer Wise that covers MLS, NWSL, and US soccer. We've got First Touch Weekly. That's a World Cup dedicated podcast. And of course, Kickback Committee, hosted by yours truly, featuring a pretty awesome lineup of soccer voices, offering all kinds of fun insight and commentary. So make sure you download and subscribe to all of those pods. Follow us on the socials, and you can now find us on SiriusXM. You can search for us on the SiriusXM app or catch us on select days on SiriusXM FC 157. All right, so today's Open Mic, kind of a big deal for me because I'm chatting with someone who, in my eyes and opinion, is a bit of podcasting royalty. Okay, so in previous episodes, I've had colleagues on in sports media who don't necessarily cover soccer but have a connection to it. So today I'm actually talking to someone who I think is one of the best at covering the sport of soccer. He is fully entrenched in that world. Ryan Hunn is one half of the Stadio Podcast, which is a phenomenal listen. He and Musa started it back in 2019, and they're just awesome. They're so well versed in not only European soccer, but the global game. And they do it in a way that's accessible and approachable, intelligent, but not arrogant, which is not always the case when it comes to soccer podcasts. So I actually discovered Stadio from my mother-in-law, Leslie Fuller. We love her. She's a huge fan, and she got me hooked on it. And in this beautiful twist of fate, Stadio and Kickback Soccer Media have now partnered, which still blows my mind. And they're doing some really cool stuff for us on the ground in Europe and around the World Cup. So to top it off, Ryan and Musa have a connection to my husband's team, Knox, as well, which is crazy. So we're going to talk about that with him. This is really special pinch me moment for me, and I'm super excited to chat with Ryan about so many things. So with that, let's get to it. Ryan Hunn, I cannot believe that I'm saying this, but welcome to Open Mic. Thank you so much for joining me. I know you don't like it when people, kind of fawn over you, but I've told you this before. You are podcasting royalty to me and my family, and so this is my moment to just be like, this is really, really, really cool for me.
Thanks
and
so much for
having me. So excited to talk to you.
Thanks so much for having me. That's so cool. Honestly, when a glimpse behind the curtain, but when we had our first call with you guys and you were telling me and Musa about how you found the show, it was. Can we talk about that? Actually,
100%. So I actually, and this is going to come later in the show, I had my mother-in-law Leslie. I said, can you come up with a question that you would like me to ask Ryan? So I have a question for you later from Leslie. But
that's so cool.
This is the story. Leslie is my wonderful mother-in-law, Leslie Fuller. She lives in Tybee Island, Georgia. She raised 4 soccer-obsessed children, my husband Ian being one of them. And this woman I think she loves soccer more than any of her children. She consumes so much soccer and podcasts. And when I first met Ian, she was very interested in what I did and, the work that I did. And she was like, well, what podcasts do you listen to? And I was like, well, there's this, and we've got, extra time because I love my MLS. And she was like, well, are you familiar with Stadio? And I was like, I don't know if I am. And then, so she introduced me to you guys.
So wild.
And I just became, I was like, oh, these guys are so good. And such a good, engaging listen. And
Thank
even
you.
the sounds of your voices, I was just like, oh yeah, this is my vibe. And I love it because you guys do it in a way that's like it's accessible, because I have found with some European podcasts, like it feels a little intimidating. And there's just there's no arrogance about it. It's just like really engaging, good conversation. And
Thanks
so,
so
yeah,
much.
my mother-in-law, Leslie,
Shouts to
probably
Leslie.
your biggest fans.
Honestly, that's
She
so
is,
cool.
and then when I'll never forget the meeting we were having at Kickback, and they were like, "Oh, well, we might be partnering with Stadio." And I'm not kidding, my head almost exploded. It's like, wait,
Aw.
what?
That's so cool, honestly.
No way. I know. And we've got so many more connections, right?
I know the one Knox. Yeah, we're gonna have to talk about that later.
It's so
When you let me loose on my USL
my God, I know.
monologue.
There's just so much. There's so much I want to talk to you about. But this is just we're gonna have fun today.
Very excited. Thanks for having me.
Anytime. I'm just so appreciative of your time. So, you live in Germany, which I don't think
so I'm kind of between Germany and UK at the moment.
Okay.
So yeah.
Germany and the UK. And Musa is also
in Berlin, yeah.
So Musa, for those of you that don't know, is the counterpart to Ryan on the Stadio podcast. And like I said, just for any football fan, if you follow, if you follow the game just in general, it's not just European soccer. It's just, I love the conversations you have. I love the points you bring up, the interviews that you do. It's I feel like I learn something every time I listen to you guys. And so I would love to hear sort of the genesis of Stadio, how you and Musa connected and like just kind of decided to do this thing.
So we met in Berlin, and we actually played football for two different teams within the same club in Friedrichshain. And we'd seen each other at games and stuff like that, and because there were a few international teams within the club. There was like 7 or 8 men's teams at senior level, I think, and 3 of those were international teams. Musa played for one, I played for another, and there was another one. And so like Christmas parties and stuff like that, and I'd seen him and met him very briefly, but just more of a say hello to. And he was on an Arsenal podcast that I listened to because he used to go on it quite a lot. Shouts to Andrew at Arsblog, who one of the best Arsenal shows around. And I think I tweeted at him or something, or said something like, "Oh, I heard you on the Arscast. That was really cool." And he was like, "Oh yeah, we're at the same club. Like, we should just grab a coffee or something." And when we grabbed a coffee, and we sat outside this cafe in Friedrichshain in Berlin, and basically just chatted. Basically, just imagine like a 4-hour version of what Stadio was. We talked about football, and we talked about politics and all kinds of stuff. Because at the time there was quite a lot going on. I think it was Brexit. The Brexit vote maybe had just happened or something like that. It was around that time. So it was when Bowie died, Prince died, all of that year, and it all went to
Was that 2015?
2016,
that was 16.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah, so it was all of that time. It was horrible. But anyway, we were chatting about football, and he was like, "Oh, that thing that you just said, you should write that kind of thing." And I'd never written about football before, and yeah, he basically just really encouraged me to write this thing that we chatted about, and we just kind of would meet up and became friends, and we had a lot of mutual friends as well, I think, within the football club. And then he was talking about just quitting football stuff, really ahead of the Men's World Cup in Russia. I think because he'd been writing about football for a long time. He'd written a couple of books at that point. He was writing for ESPN, I think. Yeah, I think he got a little bit disillusioned. I hope he don't mind. He probably might. I think he's spoken about this, so it's fine. But and I was kind of just entering football really at that point, and I was like, you can't, what are you doing?
Yeah,
you can't do this.
Can't walk away now.
And then he eventually, I think, not long after, he then he did the Men's World Cup newsletter for the New York Times in 2018 and was writing about that, and it was a very kind of, a lot of the kind of geopolitical angle of it, and then we kind of started doing this thing together for a kind of smaller magazine in Berlin for a year, and then that stopped, and and I was just like, should we do our own thing? And I don't think it was interesting because I don't think Musa really needed it, because he, like I said, he was very well known. And I remember being sat in a cafe with him in Berlin, a lot of cafes in Berlin, that we'd sat in planning stuff. And I think I just said something like, look, let's use your connections because people know who you are and you're very high profile, and, and let's do the podcast. And maybe if you can do some writing or editing, and then I'll just try and do the rest of the stuff, and we'll try and build this thing. Because, like I could kind of produce and stuff like that. My background's in like more kind of music.
Yeah, what were you doing at this time for?
I was just more like kind of like I was doing some like music stuff and all that kind of thing. So and then so then we kind of just started Stadio in 2019. It was like August 2019. And we just kind of went from there, really. We were doing one a week, sometimes two a week, and we were doing it out of the like the back of a friend's cafe in Berlin. And then COVID hit, and it was a bit weird. We'd had basically sorry, this is a super long story, but when we were planning Stadio, we were like, look, we can kind of only really make this work if we like partner with someone eventually, like. And the only example we actually wrote down was The Ringer. And then I think it was like 4 months after we launched, we had our first call with them. They got in touch, and then in COVID, we just decided to go 2 a week, and we were both, in the same position as everyone else, like locked down and away from family, and there was no football on, so we just decided to kind of do these more conceptual episodes, which, to be honest, I think if looking back now, was like a sweet spot of like real, because you had the space to not have to worry about the calendar, and you could. We did a whole episode about passing, but it wasn't even a video episode. It was just us describing some of our favorite passes or something like that. And it was just really fun. And I think it kind of grew through that because people, were like, oh, okay, you don't need football to do a football podcast. And then we joined The Ringer, and kind of away we went, really. It was really cool. And that's when we started we'd had Ian Wright on the show a couple of times at that point, I think. And then we started doing Wright's House with him as well. And that was it, really.
How long did it take you guys to kind of like figure out what you were in, like a cadence of a podcast? Because I feel like on this show, on Kickback Committee, like, it's an evolution. It's a constant evolution. And, we'll finish an episode and we'll be like, well, oh man, maybe we should have taken that in that direction, or maybe, try this idea. And I feel like I'm constantly just like tweaking and trying to figure out, not so much a formula, but what makes people want to come back and listen. So for you guys, like, you've got such a following, like how did you figure out what worked?
This sounds like a very basic answer, but it was that simple. It was basically like, let's make a podcast that we'd want to listen to.
Yeah.
And just talk about football, how we'd want to talk about football. And one of the coolest things that anyone's actually said to me about it was related to Musa. And it was a football journalist, quite a well-known one. And he said, my favorite thing about Stadio is that it finally feels like there is a place that Musa can just talk about football how he wants to talk about football. And I think that was kind of the point of it, really, was more like, let's just do, like, because look, it's 2019. The last thing the world needed was two more dudes doing a football podcast. But I think that just purely from, I don't know, where we positioned ourselves, just maybe like politically from the start, being quite inclusive and being, Musa speaking quite openly about his bisexuality, I think was quite a, maybe like not a thing that people heard very regularly.
Yeah.
And I think that we just wanted we like a lot of other stuff that isn't football, and we like pulling from those analogies, I think, in a football sense. And I think it was just more like, let's just do this. And little things like having the musical element at the end of the shows doesn't really make sense after 10 shows, but it'll make sense after 400, and it builds part of the, the language of Stadio, if you like, and these little things pop up. But I think the thing is, it was just more like, don't be too rigid with plans. Like, we've never been super rigid with show plans or time. If we record for however long we record, it's because we needed to go there in order to get the stuff that we wanted to get, and then we'll just
Yeah.
cut it down and make it. Because at the end of the day, I'm really admirable of podcasts who are just like, right, hit record, finish, and it's out 10 minutes later. I think for us, because it is just us two, and we can sometimes go on tangents and struggle to get back. I think it was more about, well, let's just try and make this quite an engaging listen for people and feel like they're almost in like the third chair.
Yeah, 100.
And so, yeah, I think it took a while. There's been tweaks. I think the tweaks have probably been maybe like sonically, or maybe, we went to 2 a week rigidly from COVID because we were like, well, look, we're at home, you're at home, we can do this, let's go to 2 a week. Whereas before it was like 1 + 1-ish, be true to ourselves in terms of what we want to focus on, but also not admitting, but just acknowledging that you have to do the stuff that also people want to hear about. Look, we're not huge and we will never be the biggest podcast around for a number of factors, but I think that people found us for a reason, and I think it's more about like, let's just keep doing that. And we've been really lucky with our audience that if we've tried to nudge it in certain directions at points, they've been cool with that.
Yeah,
we did on the Patreon last week. I think we just started with 15 minutes about the Artemis thing because we were like, this is actually just cool.
Got to talk about it.
And yeah, people were like, oh, this is great. Like,
yeah, so. We yesterday I recorded a committee episode with Walker Zimmerman. And we spent the last 20 minutes talking about Survivor, which is the reality TV competition that we're both very into. So, But
I think people like that as well, right? Because they kind of they want to hear. I mean, within reason, obviously, they want to hear you talk about the stuff because there is like a parasocial relationship thing with the people that you listen to. Yeah.
It's a connection, and I think I the way you described what you guys do, I think is so incredibly accurate, because I do feel like when I first met you guys on the Zoom call, I felt like I already knew you because I've listened to you, and I feel like I am in that third chair, and that's such a cool thing that you guys have created, and that sort of environment. One of the things I love. Also, I think everybody loves. I'm dying to hear your reaction the first time you heard Musa laugh.
I was like, yeah, of course, yeah. Just his Musa's laugh is very contagious as well. It's not like it's
It gets me every time. I don't know. Yeah. It's like this. Like I feel this like surge of joy, just like bubbling up every time I hear it.
Well, that's the thing, right? Because it's people. Like it is contagious, and it makes you feel like it's impossible to not just go along with it.
100.
Yeah. I actually can't remember the first time I heard it, but I remember it being present.
It like
quite soon.
I had one of those like jump reactions, like what is this sound?
Yeah,
what
it's
is
great.
This? Oh, it's incredible.
My kind of favorite thing is when like sometimes if you say something and someone laughs at you, and then you go to follow up. My favorite thing is just leaving him to and just letting him see how long he can go.
Yeah, it's tremendous. What are some of the favorite episodes that you guys have recorded, or conversations that you've had, or interviews? Like, what are the ones that stick out where you feel like, we got something special here, or that was a conversation worth having and worth listening to?
Sorry, it's quite a bleak one, but I think it was the week of George Floyd's murder.
Oh, man,
and we did an episode which was called Two Friends Talk About Racism and Then Football, and that was it. And it was very much like a 2-part episode with, I think it was just really important to have Musa to have space on his own thing, just to talk. And I think it was really interesting. We had quite a strong reaction to that show. And I think it displayed maybe a little bit of what we'd like to think we can do with Stadio, which is you can be super, super serious about something and you can get your point across, but then you can, come back from the break and talk about which football teams are a catfish. So, but yeah, I think it was interesting because of the range of the reactions and people within the industry, but also people we knew. Like my dad got in touch and was just like, "Oh, it made me realize that I should be doing this more." And I thought that was really intriguing because I think so often in those spaces, especially around those discussions, people are usually put in a space or in a situation where there is like someone constantly countering them, or there is a different point of view, and it becomes a debate. And I think our point of view with that was just, this isn't a debate. It's just not a debate. Like, I don't actually need to hear. No, I don't need to hear anyone else's opinion on this. I don't need to hear a countering, like, or a different point of view, because this isn't a game, and this isn't like, you're not talking about which your favorite midfielders. This is someone's life and something, that affects people daily. And I think listening to Musa and just letting him, not letting him, because that makes it sound like that's not what I mean, but just actually him having the space to talk about that stuff on his terms without any interruption and on his own thing, I think meant quite a lot, Yeah, so I'd say that one in a serious sense, because I think it also just, I think it was the week before we officially joined the Ringer as well. So I think,
Wow.
and the cool thing was they were like so supportive of it,
Yep.
and they were like, 100, and they were just great. Other than that, I think there was some. I think the first time maybe we met Ian, because it was just the first time I'd met Ian, and I'm a huge Arsenal fan, and I was a bit like, oh my god, this is Ian, right? That was amazing. And
he seems lovely.
He's the best. He's just the best.
Like, he just seems like a wonderful human.
Yeah, he's the best guy. Like, just, I love him. Yeah, he's amazing. I think maybe like, the only two active players that we've had on Stadio have been Jackson Irvine and Lotte Wubben-Moy, who are both just incredible humans as well. And I think just having those conversations with those people was really cool. But yeah, like, I think probably those. And I mean, to be honest, I could go on. Like, some of the conceptual stuff was just really fun, because it was just like, I don't know, we gave people, I don't know, the things you can get away with when you think no one's really listening. We gave people like a month to go rewatch The Wire, and then we did 2 episodes of Wire characters as footballers, and so stupid. Like,
yes,
but yeah, really fun.
No, see, that is fun, and again, it goes back to the connection that people feel, you know. And like, if you're a fan of that show, you're like, oh my god, this is brilliant, like 100%. So it's very cool. And it's very creative, and I feel like, I just feel like you guys do such a good job of making it feel, drawing people in, and
I mean, on that, actually, sorry to interrupt, but I think probably like our favorite shows of the year, which are regular, are probably the Christmas Day episodes that we do, which are, each year we do a Football Things to be Grateful for episode, which is listeners sending in their submissions, and we just read them. And
love that.
It usually it's I don't know, I can't remember exactly. I think it was probably either like the first COVID year where we were like, well, this year's been dreadful, and maybe we should focus on some things that are quite positive. and it became really cool where, I don't know, there was one that really stuck with me, which was a guy sent us something about how him and his dad live on different coasts now. I think he moved to the West Coast and his dad's on the East Coast, but they still like watch games and talk. But then the dad emailed us saying that he'd listened to the show and heard that thing. So I was just like, this is too much, man. Yeah. So those ones are really like, they're kind of, it's really cool just hearing, because I think so much of football commentary and discourse is really it's like really negative. And everyone's just like, everyone's a fraud, and everyone's bottling it, and everyone's rubbish. And I think it's just quite nice hearing, like things that mean something to like other people as well.
Absolutely.
Like just, and you get to learn. I think it might have even been, I don't know, I'm not sure if I'm remembering that right, but it might have even been like the first time we'd heard about like Vermont Green, for example, like through those shows. So for us, it's also really interesting hearing what other people are engaging with, and then going and exploring that for ourselves,
Yeah, I love it too. And I think, you're so right. So much of the punditry can be, just really negative and, tearing clubs down or players down. And it's like, no, like, this is the beautiful game. Like, it's a unifier. Like, history tells us that, soccer has been this unifier. And so I think finding those moments, and in a way that's, that's authentic, like, and for for people to connect, like, is so important. And that's one of the things that I love so much about what you guys do. You mentioned the Vermont Green podcast, which so
shouts to the scarf.
Oh my God. It's just so cool. It's so cool because I know you talked to our buddies Matt Wolf and Pat and Ferna, who essentially started this club that is now in USL League 2. And I remember being so stoked when I heard that they were, embarking on this journey, just because I know how passionate those guys are. And I was like, well, they're gonna do it. They're gonna do it well and create something really, really cool and unique and very special for Vermont. And the fact that was number one on your radar, you and Musa's radar, was so cool because, the USL, the lower divisions here in America, we've got the supporters. It's there, but it doesn't get much shine. It really doesn't. And so the fact that it was something that you guys were aware of and were interested in was so great. The fact that you actually went to a match was so cool and incredible. And then obviously, you guys just spoke at length about what an incredible time you had and the atmosphere and, how it kind of brought you back to like the roots of what soccer are. And I think, I'm curious, like, number one, like, how did you even come across it? And, what was it that sort of piqued your curiosity enough to make you want to make that trip and go experience it firsthand?
Well, I think, I think it was either through one of those Stadio episodes or the Grateful episodes, or just, there was a club that we were aware of because it had popped up on stuff. I think that, I can't remember the exact timeline of it all, but I remember getting in touch with Pat and just emailing him being like, look, we'd love to do something on the club. And he was just like, oh yeah, cool. Like, let's have a call. And I knew about Matt Wolf's stuff. Obviously just a very, very legendary designer,
So for those of you that don't know, he's basically every cool badge that you see in North American soccer. That's a Matt Wolf design. Yeah. Like, he the
legendary Nigeria kit from 2018, which broke all kind of sales records. That was a Matt Wolf design. And I think also just the thing about the club which really drew us to it, which I think is something that I'm happy to talk about with USL as a wider thing, is just there was so clearly just an ethos about the club straight away. Yeah, I just got in touch and we were like, look, we're going to go to New York. Musa and I went to New York I think it was March. We just went up to Burlington to go and interview them. So we interviewed Sam and Matt and Pat, who are the three of the founders.
Yep.
And Coach Taylor, who is a fellow Liverpool supporter like yourself. And it was really interesting because when we did the conversation, their season hadn't started yet, and it was really interesting because it was Chris's first season as head coach. He'd been assistant to Adam Pfeiffer, who moved up to sporting director, or solely sporting director, because I think Adam was doing head coaching and
that's usually how it works.
Yeah. And so Chris was sat there just basically going on about how good they were, and we were like, dude, the founders are like right there, you better go and win something this year. And then they proceeded to go win the national championship unbeaten. But we never actually got to go to a game last season. So this year I got a heads up from Pat before the draw was announced. He was just like, dude, I need to talk to you. And I was like, what's up? He said, so we've got Hearts of Pine in the Open Cup and it's on St. Patrick's Day. And he just said, you have to come. And I was like, yeah, you're right. Like, and it's really interesting because we don't have obviously any ties to either club, and we're in Europe, and neither of us were born in Vermont or Portland, Maine. But as soon as that tie got announced publicly, so many people were like, oh, it's like a Stadio derby. And so I think that's quite interesting how like the ethoses of both those clubs maybe align with what we try and do, or what we think, or what we like about football, or just community or whatever. And so I went to New York for a few days, and then I went up and It's the coldest I've ever been at a football match.
I'm
ever.
sure.
It was so cold.
I'm sure.
But I had the best time. Like, I mean, we had a really good time when we went before, and it was actually quite. I don't know. Musa said something about how the initial trip to Burlington, when we just went and met the boys, was like a bit of a kind of shot in the arm about certain football things, because I think it could be quite easy to. I mean, with everything that's going on at the moment, it's easy to fall back into it. But football can be super, especially like top level men's football. It can really push you to the limit. I think of what. Yeah, I think fans get pushed a lot further than they should be pushed with top level men's football. I think they're asked to swallow quite a lot of stuff, and I think it can be very, very draining. Mm-hmm. And so it was just really nice to go to a place, and also just to go to Burlington, because you get I don't know, you just get like, you can tell it's like Bernie's place, you know. And I think for us, we were like, you know, there's like I think it says dismantle white supremacy on the Ben and Jerry's thing. And it's really funny because Musa straight away was just like, oh my God, like this is on the side of a Ben and Jerry's. And so I took a photo of him just as Pat was coming down the street, and Pat was just like, yeah, everyone gets a photo of that. Like when it comes. So like, all right, yeah, we're like, I don't know,
basic tourists
kind of thing. But yeah, so yeah, we're big fans of, I think USL in general. I don't know whether I can kind of segue onto that, but I think it's more. Yeah. I think it's, for us, I think it's one of the most interesting emerging like soccer things in the world.
1000% agree.
And yeah, I'm intrigued to see what you obviously think, because you're much closer like to another national champion. So that's quite good, right?
There we are. One Knox.
Knox. There was a live watch along in the Stadio social club Discord.
This blew my mind. Yeah. This absolutely blew my mind when I discovered this as well. So we mentioned that like we had other connections. It was like the universe was coming together so that we could all meet in this lovely kickback soccer media sphere. But it was brought to my attention that somehow Stadio, actually I think it was my mother-in-law, because I think you talked about it on the podcast, and probably, she texted me immediately and was like, have you listened to the latest episode? They were watching One Knox. They watched and I was like, get out of town.
No, seriously,
get out of town. I was like, no, they didn't.
It had like a viewing counter on there as well, and I think it was like there was like 438 people, and I swear 50 of them were from the Stadio Discord.
It's crazy. So I was like, wait, what? This can't be real. And then we start, our partnership, and it was like one of the first things that we talked about, which was so crazy. But can you explain the connection and why it was, how you came to be that you were watching this USL League One championship match and supporting my husband's team, One Knox?
Exactly. So we left the rigger at the end of last season. We went independent and launched a kind of like membership thing.
Yes.
And one of the members in there is a guy called Jeff, who is from Knoxville and lives there and is goes to games, and is actually, we kept seeing him on the broadcast. And he was there with his wife and his kids and stuff, and they were like, just having a great time, and he's in all all of the celebratory shots and stuff like that. And so it was just I think this is the really cool thing about having the community like that, where you get to learn about other people's like clubs, right? There's people from all around the world in there who support clubs that may not be Arsenal, Manchester United, or Liverpool, or Real Madrid, or whatever, and it's really cool hearing about those clubs, because I think I think it's with the USL and this specifically, that's basically how we kind of like got into that. And we'd already done the thing with Vermont Green, and we're big fans of the kind of the pyramid structure of USL as well, and the fact that they want to make it promotion relegation, and we find it, I think also personally, I think it's a really interesting mixture of the good things about what you like, the community foundation of where European clubs came from a lot of the time, but doing it in a very American sense. So for example, they don't feel like franchises because they're not really franchises,
Yeah.
even though they're technically they could be classed, but they feel much more like clubs that are there for the community,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's really cool. And I think also as outsiders and people who live on this side of the pond, I feel like soccer fans are just inherently a little bit more progressive in the States. Than it feels like quite a progressive audience for sport compared to maybe like the NFL or whatever. And so you have this emergence of people who are big soccer fans who want to do something that means a little more than just winning games. And you can just see that. I think it's really cool. I think it's really cool that the clubs that are emerging are quite often very personal to the community. AC Boise is a recent example of that as well, where you have the largest Basque diaspora outside of the Basque country, and that's why they're called AC, because it's athletic club.
Yep.
And I think that it's just really cool. I think it's a really nice like alternative to MLS as well, which is very much feels like it follows much more of a traditional American sports model. I don't know how to maybe word it properly, but it feels like almost like the underground of football, right? So it's not like the mainstream pop music stuff. It's the more, and I think that the people who are around that, I think are the creativity involved, for example, or some of the design or some of the actual I think it's just really interesting. Yeah, sorry, I've been going.
No, it's absolutely true, and I think you've hit the nail on the head when you say that it is this sort of the soccer scene in the States, and like it draws a more liberal crowd. And I remember your interview with Pat on the podcast. He kept referring to like counterculture, and like that's exactly kind of it. And so maybe that not the people, more contrarian, I guess. Like it's not the NFL fans, it's not the NBA fans. It just attracts a more liberal, progressive minded crowd. And that's just MLS, right? Like that's just US soccer and MLS. And then you get down to the lower divisions, and it distills into an even sort of more community driven type of people that come and support this and want to watch, which is really, really cool. And I love being kind of, we call it like the soccer sickos. Like that's like 100% like what we are. And it's much more in line, I think, with like what we hope it becomes in this country.
I think one thing, sorry to cut in, but I think one thing that I find really interesting about USL is that it feels like an opportunity for the founders and the community to shape how they want that to look, as opposed to having like more things dictated to them from a central league.
Yeah.
And obviously there are, it's not like nothing unfortunately in this day and age is it's very difficult to be super, super, super organic. You have to have financing, you have to have like budgets and infrastructure, and just learning about the differences, for example, from being a USL2 club to what you need to be a USL1 club.
Yep.
It's still very difficult, but I think that's just pro sport, right?
Yeah.
I don't know. It was just like something about being in Burlington for the Vermont Green Heart Supplying game. I think it was just such a like amazing football experience.
Yeah.
And I think maybe, did
it surprise you? Like how?
No, it didn't.
Like,
it didn't
like what were did you have any preconceived notions about? Because I think we kind of, a lot of times, especially in soccer here, like we almost have like imposter syndrome a lot of times when it comes to comparing ourselves to the European leagues and leagues that have been established for way longer than anything we have here. And so I think sometimes we're a little bit intimidated. And so I'm just curious, like if you had sort of an idea in your head of what it was going to look like, or
well, I mean, we kind of cheated a bit because we watched so many of the Vermont Green games last season that we basically just had like massive FOMO because it looked also quite nice weather for those games because and when I went, it was so cold.
I was going to say, yeah, middle of the summer is delightful.
Looked great. And the funny thing was that there were a few Stadio listeners who were there, and Dylan, one of them, was just like, "Dude, you got to come back in the summer." I was like, "Yeah, I know. People keep telling me this," and I'm like, but no. So I think we knew what it was going to be like, and I think also just meeting the guys before and kind of having conversations with them and knowing what their ethos was with football, you could kind of, and then being so open about where the club's like social stance, I think you kind of knew what it was going to be like. But I think going to your other point in terms of the imposter syndrome thing, I think this is something that's like I've always found quite interesting because not wanting to preach, but the US does have like a really, really interesting long soccer history, and I don't think many people give it maybe credit's not the right word, but maybe respect for how far back it goes. And I've found it really interesting just going on the some of the archives and just looking at the names of the clubs in leagues, in the late 1800s and early 1900s in New York, and like how it was all born out of immigrants communities coming over 100%. And, Brooklyn Celtic and teams like that. And I think it's the thing I find a little bit, I think maybe more encouraging about USL is that it feels like a US soccer culture that's kind of re-engaging with its own self again. If that doesn't sound too kind of like, well, and not really worried about what anyone else thinks, and not really being like, oh, well, actually we have to have like a certain name, or we have to look this, have this kind of branding. It's just feels a lot more organic. And that's cool, because I think the best footballing experiences are the ones that are unique to their own environment, I think. And no one wants to go to just the same stadium in multiple places in the world. It's and I think some of the most fun recent experiences from a football point of view have been those really unique ones, like Venezia. Venezia is kind of like it's not really like anywhere else. And I would also put Vermont Green in that, because it isn't like anywhere else that I've ever watched football. And I know that to some people, it was really interesting hearing. This is why I find people's different relationships to their own clubs really interesting, because there's just a load of fans being like, I can't wait till we get a new stadium, and like, well, we're at the University of Vermont, like, playing fields or whatever. And I was just like, this is so cool. We don't have this.
Exactly.
So I just thought it was really cool, and I think it's there's just a lot to I think be interested in USL.
Well, it tees up. I told you earlier that I sourced my mother-in-law, Leslie, to ask you a question. And so she was like,
really
let
nervous
me think about this. Well, I think she was too. She took a while to get back to me. And then she constructed this very thought out question for you, Ryan. So this is from Leslie Fuller, who we love and adore. Okay. She says, "Hi, Ryan. Having enjoyed your show for some time, I was lucky to hear your episode on Vermont Green. Your joy of football at that level, the environment of that club, and your understanding of the World Football Leagues. How might relegation affect USL Championship and USL League One in America?" So this is a relegation question, because the idea being in that I think starting not next season, the season after, promotion relegation will be introduced. So what is right now the championship, which is essentially Division 2, that is going to become the I think they're calling it like the Premier League, basically. And then Championship, League One. So basically there's going to be these 3 tiers, and promotion and relegation can then happen very similarly to all the European leagues. So it is such a hot button topic in the States. Like, some people are totally for it. Some people absolutely despise the concept. Do you feel like, based on your knowledge and your experiences, do you feel like that is an element that, if it were introduced, would help to grow the game?
I think it'd be really good.
Yeah.
However, there are, I think that one thing that USL has got a real advantage of is the knowledge of everything that has gone before it. Now, if we look at like, gestures wildly around the world, it doesn't really seem to have helped like much other stuff. But
Yeah.
if in a football sense, the necessity from staying in the league isn't financial, it's sporting. I think if they can make sure that the gap between the very, very top of the top league and the very, very bottom of the bottom league that's involved in the relegation and promotion system is as small as it can be, then I think it's a no-brainer to me. I think it's amazing. I think that this is one thing that I hope they really, really, really try and protect, because everything in football feels so seismic. And I think that one of the things that I quite would like to get into wider football culture, and this is something that I have taken from US sports. I'm a Pacers fan, so like for example,
Pacers fan.
So I would say like not hardcore, but I am a Pacers fan, and I think the cyclical nature of a lot of US sports is something that, yes, it's a different system and it's closed leagues and all of this kind of stuff, but I think it should be okay to have a bad season. That's all I'm saying. I think it should be okay as long as you don't maybe have 2 or 3 in a row. I think it's, especially with the the top level, it's very, very difficult to be the same all the time unless you are insanely rich.
Yeah.
So I think that if they can just make the whole competition as sporting focused as possible,
yes,
and be like, look, sometimes you're going to go down, but you might come straight back up, or you might like stay 2 years in the lower league and then come back up. But it's not going to it's not going to mean that the club has to like suffer a huge amount financially.
Yeah.
Because I think that what's happened in top level men's football on this side of the world, specifically in England, I think more than anywhere else, is that the reasons are so financially focused that they end up relying on that aspect of it for survival, and I think you have to just protect the ecosystem. So that's my but again, I'd be really interested to hear more kind of counter arguments to that, because it's not my, there was obviously people who work at executive level or whatever who might have different opinions, but I think just make it as like sporting focused as possible, I think, because I think that'd be the best thing.
I couldn't agree more. And it's funny, I just had a conversation with one of my colleagues about so Ian's team, One Knox, is playing DC United tomorrow in US Open Cup. So this is the first time that they're going to play an MLS side. So, it's a big deal. Ian's been watching, tons of film on DC, and he's like, come here. He's like, look at this. And he's like, it's bigger, faster, stronger. And even at the championship level, it's bigger, faster, stronger. And today I was talking with my colleague, and we were, talking about the divide between the divisions and the quality of play, and how there is just such a stark difference. And part of that is because now I think there are 5 new USL League One teams this season.
Yeah.
And it kind of gets, it basically, it stretches them so thin talent wise that the product then is lesser. And so exactly to your point, like how do you find a way to financially ensure that you're getting quality on the field, but that divide between the divisions isn't so stark that it's just, it's almost pointless to introduce promotion relegation. And so, because I want it to happen. I love the concept. I think it would be so exciting and fun, but right now it feels like there is this like problem. And the problem is that there's a lot of owners who are, their owners who are so gung-ho and want it to be a sporting club, like the Vermont Greens and the Portland Hearts of Pine. And then, there are others that, South Georgia Tormenta just folded,
really?
2 weeks before the season started. And all those players were under contract, and suddenly they didn't have a club, it just... So that you see both ends, and there has to be a way to bridge that gap in order for it to succeed. And it feels, I don't know, I don't have that kind of brain. That's above my pay grade, but it's it is a problem.
I agree. Yeah, I think it's just, don't try and compete with other leagues. Like
Yeah.
just don't compete with MLS, don't compete with Europe, don't compete with anything. Just be like, maybe it's, we joke about this on Stadio all the time, but I think sometimes it might come across as naivety, or I don't know, being fucking woke or whatever. Sorry, swear.
No,
but like,
we swear on this show.
But I think that you have to make. I think if I was overseeing like a new league or a new system somewhere in the world, I think you have to make, like, strike this balance between it being important and meaning something, but not being the only thing that matters in that space. It has to kind of, and this is why I think the things that I've seen so far, and obviously I've only been over my experience and knowledge of USL clubs is small. But for example, we're chatting to some people from Detroit City who we knew were like an inspiration for Vermont Green, and then Portland Hearts of Pine were inspired by Vermont Green. So there's a lineage there already. I think it's just serve the community and make it something that it's not just winning or having all of the best players that is the thing, right? Because I don't know, I think I've probably just been so close to so many clubs on this side of the world that have, I mean, you're a Liverpool fan, I'm an Arsenal fan. The Premier League is like kind of gross, really, if you think about it. It is like, it's the richest league in the world. It's just its effects and the distortion that it's had on other, like, very, very rich leagues and competitions. It's great seeing the players that you see on a week-to-week basis. I would rather it not be so stacked with talent, because at the moment my Arsenal team are fighting for their life to get over the line, and I would rather look at the
I was not going to bring
like,
that up, by the way.
It's fine. It's one of those, like, I'm so fine. I just want the season to be over.
It's fine. Everything's fine.
Well, I mean, you're probably the same, right? I just want the season to be done.
I cannot wait for this season.
Can't wait. And then we've got 10 days, and then the World Cup starts. I just can't wait. No, I think just basically, I'm kind of labeling the point a bit, so I'll wrap it up. But I think just there are so many good things already about it that are because of the people who have set up those clubs. Don't go down the same route that I think a lot of other systems have, because like, that doesn't really serve anyone. I don't think,
Amen. Amen to that.
Thanks for the question, Leslie. I feel quite honored that I got a question of Leslie.
She is going to be so excited.
Musa's going to be really jealous that I got a question.
Well, I think I'm recording something with Musa definitely in the next couple of weeks, so I'm going to have to do the same thing. Do it. For Musa, because she's just the family group chat is just going to pop off. It's going to be
so wild. Honestly,
it's going to be great. It's going to be great.
Musa and I were talking about that for ages afterwards. We were just like, after the first call, we basically just like we kind of called each other afterwards on a debrief. This is probably a glimpse behind the curtain. We were like, that was so cool. We were like two kids,
Same. Well, same. If it makes you feel any better, I was like, I ran downstairs. I'm like, Ian, you're not going to believe who I just was on a call with. And he was like, what? He was like, this is nuts. I know. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Well,
they say don't meet your heroes, but
no,
man.
Shout out to Ian, because, I saw the graphic that went up. That guy won a championship.
Yep. He's his first year as head coach.
I think we did quite well from the Stadio community. Did quite well, but they had an unbeaten USL2 champion, and everyone was rooting for one Knox in the final, and we got
Well, you got to keep it going, man. Keep
put
spreading the gospel.
If Arsenal win the league this season, I might just change the Stadio logo and put 3 stars above it.
There you go.
Like Arsenal, one Knox, and Vermont.
Brilliant. I'm here for it. Oh man, we gotta get you guys to a match though.
I know. Musa and I were like, we have to.
It is not. I will say, it's not the environment that you would get in Vermont or like a Portland. It's a baseball stadium, so it's a little bit wonky.
The vibe of it, like, it looked fun.
I mean, the final was it was packed. Yeah. I think they set the USL attendance record. But University of Tennessee is like, their sports in Knoxville are that it is king. So their football team, their basketball team, and so they're always kind of competing with that. And so I think the club is trying to find a way to like bring those people in, and the attendance, it's getting much better, but it's still, it's a young club. They're still finding their feet.
And how old are they? What, like 3 years old?
2023, I believe, was their first season. Yeah, 2023.
Wow. Yeah. Wow.
So yeah, I mean, it's still early days. So, but yeah, to win a championship, it was awesome. It was such a fun run, man. I
think their away kit this season is really nice.
Yeah, it's
cool.
The
pale one,
the cream with like the kind of orange stripes. Yeah,
nice.
And it's I love a collar. I'm a big sucker for a collar on a kit. So it was good. I may or may not have had some input on.
Wow, no way.
Ian calls me the unofficial GM of because there is no GM. So
really?
Yeah. A lot of things get run by me.
That's so funny. That's honestly, when I was in Vermont, I was basically saying to the guys, I was like, guys, you know what? I think you really need some like outside input, and I think you definitely need me to, like, you definitely need to hire me. And they were just like, dude, like we're putting all the stuff in the van that we're driving, like we're not hiring you. I was like, yeah, all right, fine.
Seriously though, it'll happen. I can, or one Knox, man.
Musa's dream is to be I think almost like a borderline autocratic sporting director, just to be like,
so Ian is head coach and sporting director, and he's like, I can't. He's like, it's too much. I can't. Because he's like, he spends so much time watching film of young college players. Like he's like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like he's like, this is so. Yeah, Musa.
It sounds so stressful. I mean, if you did, like, Musa's not here, so he can't defend himself. But if he was sporting director, you just end up with just a load of midfielders. That would just be it. It'd be like, just be so many midfielders.
So many midfielders, but maybe that there. I'm sure there's a formation that we could make that work somehow.
Pack the midfield.
Yeah, exactly. No, it's been really, really fun, and I love. It's so cool that you guys are into it, and we still get such a kick out of it. I want to transition over. You mentioned the World Cup. Okay, so this thing is happening. It's crazy. I think we are. It's like, as we're recording this, I think we're like 58 days away from the start, which just feels. I know. Well, Ryan, we have been in the soccer media space in the States from, I think this was announced like 8 years ago that it was going to be here. I mean, I feel like we have been building up to 2026 for it's all we've been kind of talking about. And now it's here. And I'm going to be truly transparent. It's been hard for me to get really excited about it. Just due to the state of the world, the state of our country that I'm living in right now. And I'm really hoping that the closer it gets, I start to feel that World Cup anticipation that I typically feel ahead of this tournament. But curious to kind of just take your temperature on where you're at with the World Cup and your feelings towards it.
I mean, as stressful as it's been being an Arsenal fan this season, I think I have to kind of admit that it has taken a lot more of my attention away from the World Cup.
Yeah.
If Arsenal were cruising at the top of the league and it was almost wrapped up, then maybe but that lot are stressing me out so much that
I think can only imagine.
But no, I think there's two things with the World Cup, because it's happened across multiple World Cups now. Well, men's World Cup specifically, I suppose. But the thing that's really difficult is that the last two World Cups have taken place in locations that have tried to project a positive image about themselves. So you've known the politics and the relationships and stuff that have been going on there, and you know that what you're being shown might not be the full truth when the cameras and the show packs up and leaves. I think what's really jarring about this World Cup is that it's the opposite of that. It's not even trying to put on a specific show for everyone. It's just like, it's actively doing the opposite, which is the first time in my lifetime that I can remember that happening. And I think the thing that I'm not concerned about, because it's like, well, you've kind of, known what's been going on for a while, but I think that the sheer unwillingness from the global body that is supposed to be protecting this sport and running it the lack of energy to remotely push back on anything, and just see its own thing completely damaged beyond potential repair, I think it's just been weird.
Yeah.
Like wherever you stand politically, because I understand that sometimes we say stuff like that on Stadio and people just roll their eyes like, yeah, all right, whatever. but I think that, I don't know. I find it's almost like it's the only sport that seems to be so hell bent on destroying itself to that degree, because of the incessant need for more. It's just like more, and I think it's got to a point, and I think you're actually seeing it with this World Cup, that I just don't think the appetite is actually there as much as a lot of people at the very top of the game think it is. I think humans are human. You can't do the same thing all the time, and you sometimes quite want a break from something. And I think when you are having teams, people who fans don't even know if they're going to be able to travel safely. Fans of teams who have qualified for the World Cup are actively
if they
banned,
can even afford it. I mean,
if they can, and then that's before you can. The ticket prices are obscene. It's just. So yeah, look, I know that sounds a bit ranty. That wasn't very coherent.
No,
I think it's just more like. I think it's just more like
facts.
It's more like, actually, why do you get to do that to the World Cup? Let's look at how much the World Cup means to so many people. And the great thing to give, because I think it's very easy to bash FIFA, but I think that the people had a lot of concerns about the 48 team World Cup. But one of the great things about that was seeing some of these nations qualify either for the first time in a long time or for the first time ever. And I'm a bit like, why do you then get to kind of almost destroy how special that thing will be for people? I don't know. I don't have an answer necessarily. I think it's more like, I'm looking forward to aspects of the World Cup. I'm looking forward to some of the storylines within it, like you do with.
I want to focus on the soccer, that's my thing, is that I want it to be about, I want to enjoy, the storylines and the heroes that emerge, that come out of nowhere. And, I want to see the Japan fans, being awesome. And I want to celebrate all those things. And it just feels like there's this kind of cloud. And the other thing that really just bums me out, as an American soccer fan, is that, the last time, in 1994, it was such a huge moment for soccer in the States, and the advent of MLS that came after that World Cup. And it feels like, we're hosting the biggest World Cup that we've ever seen, and wanting to seize the moment of this and help to grow the sport here. And it feels like it's getting it just feels as if there's so many other factors that are getting in the way of what we were trying to do in the first place, that I don't know that this World Cup is going to have the kind of effect that we had hoped it would.
I think, to me, I sometimes wonder, like, Musa and I have this conversation quite a lot, where I think there seems to be a conversation just in terms of, I think, a lot of things in the world at the moment, where it's either, there's a reality that has to happen, or there's the kind of idealist, we'd all love to live in this kind of utopia thing. And I think that, for example, something that's happened recently with, Zoran Mandani in New York is that, oh no, actually you can marry those two things a lot closer together than you think. And I think what's, like, to me, an absolute non-negotiable, I would think, if I was the head of FIFA, would be, no fan should ever have to travel to any tournament worried about their safety. They should. That's and no matter, you can go into the deals and the partners and whether you can only pay on specific credit cards or payment apps or whatever, or who sponsors what or whatever. But I think that there is just a fundamental, like, humanity missing from a lot of what's going on around this World Cup. And to me, it kind of doesn't really matter about the rest of it. Like, if you can't guarantee safety and security for, a tournament that you are overseeing the operation of, then what does anything else really mean?
Yeah.
And I think what we were talking earlier on about just how top level men's football in particular seems to be hell bent on pushing the fans as far as they can really go. I think there was a real opportunity here to make a statement which would have created a far greater legacy of this World Cup than just turn it into just the thing that we've seen so far. And look, I want it to go smoothly, because there is a fear there that something, there's just a nagging fear that something might happen, and I really don't want it to. But I think it's just, it's almost like the toothpaste is so far out the tube. It's just like, what do you even do? It kind of bends my brain, because I want to be able to come, I like to say, it's my job essentially to talk about football, and same with you, right? But I don't know if you feel the same, but I feel sometimes with things like this, I'm just a bit like, what are we doing?
I know. And then I feel like a Debbie Downer all the time.
Well, that's it. But then does that make me like, am I the idiot? I'm just having like a kind of like,
like, why can't I be excited? Why can't I feel good anymore? Oh.
So I go to Burlington, Vermont, and stand outside in -18 centigrade or whatever it was, and just be like, this is great.
Inject that into my veins.
So yeah, I mean, look, I'm really excited about some of the storylines there, and some of the teams that have been there, and I think it's just, I want it to be a really good tournament, and I want it to, and I'm just very, very
okay.
worried.
So let's turn it to the positive then.
Yeah.
So like in terms of a storyline that you're excited to follow, like what is one of those that?
Well, Musa and I have been talking quite a lot about Cape Verde.
Cape Verde, yes.
That'd be just great, just to see that, and I mean, obviously, Curacao and Haiti and all of these kind of teams that are going. I think it's just really, really cool seeing teams go to a tournament that just really, really want to be there, and they're fine if it's only 3 games. They're just like, this is great.
Yeah.
I think Mexico playing on home soil, I think, will be kind of wild.
Yeah.
And also, it's a very obvious one, but Messi's last World Cup.
Yeah.
And what that team can do, I think is going to be interesting.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. I think as if I'm being completely honest, I haven't thought too much about the real, like, what I'm, since the qualifiers maybe completed. I think the thing with World Cup, with any World Cup, is like we said before, there's always amazing stuff. Like Scotland,
always.
I mean, for example, like Scotland.
Oh my gosh, yes.
Just like Scotland being there is going to be amazing. And
it's going to be, it's the Tartan Army that I am.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I cannot wait to see the antics.
Just, Scotland's one of the most amazing places on earth. Good for the soul.
Mm-hmm.
Glad to see them there. But yeah.
What are your impressions of the U.S. men's national team? Because I think so. The narrative that we have sort of formulated here is that this is arguably like the most talented team we've had in terms of players, getting regular minutes in big leagues overseas. But there's been this sort of lack of identity, I think, at least from my perspective. And I feel like, when you look back at some of the U.S. teams, like I love like the 2002 U.S. team, right? Like just, not the best in terms of talent, but just grit and fight and, this like total belief. And I love that. And I think you saw it in 2010 and 2014 as well. Like that was something that was a characteristic that we had and was quite proud of. And I feel like that edge is not, as we've become more talented, it's almost like that aspect has been diminished a little bit. And so I don't know. I'm just curious, like what the impression is of the U.S. men's national team, because everyone here is like, well, if we don't get it to a quarterfinal, this World Cup is going to be a disaster and a failure. And I'm sitting here going, do you know how hard it is to get to quarterfinal of a World Cup? Like
I did see an article that I think had the title "The Path to the Final," and I was like, "The path to the what?" Sorry, sorry, no,
but exactly, yes. Like, a little self-awareness, please.
We have a second phase that's taking nearly a week to get down to the round of 16. It's like, this is difficult. So I'm probably going to do the thing that's going to annoy Americans.
No, please.
More than anything. I haven't thought about them a huge amount.
Good.
Honestly, not a massive opinion either way. Because I actually thought the 2022 side was really good in theory, and I think I was watching that Dortmund side where Gio Reyna emerged. We were so like, this guy is unbelievable.
Special. Yeah.
And I think the thing that's not confusing, because I think it just happens, like it's very, very, I think people sometimes, we're talking about the coverage of football earlier. Every single football player who is a professional is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Is an amazing footballer. Being close at the Vermont Green Hearts of Pine game, even that close, I'm just like, wow, these guys are so good. And you imagine how much better you have to be to then win a World Cup or play at a World Cup. I think maybe there's just a sense of the profile of that squad is quite interesting, because it doesn't feel like there are any standout. Okay, these are the guys who are like the superstars now. I think it was supposed to be McKennie and Pulisic as the two guys who are going to be like, we are the standout. And I think Reyna to a degree as well. I think the whole stuff about the last World Cup and that fallout, I just think just was weird.
Wild.
And just didn't really like.
Wild.
Yeah. So I think I wouldn't expect a huge amount from them in terms of actual like achieving. Like, I don't think they're going to go to the final, for example, or anything like that. I think it's just more about, and I think that, but at the same time, I think that, look, I think we're kind of going through it with Arsenal as well at the moment. I think people have short memories. Like, this Arsenal side, I don't want this to sorry, I'm bringing it back to Arsenal. This Arsenal side is really good compared to what it was.
Yeah.
However, and I think also the fact that you have, everything's part of a process, and it takes generations for that to all filter down properly. And I think that you're still the current setup and the ecosystem, especially I think in men's soccer in the US, because I think the women's soccer was just like way ahead of the curve compared to men's soccer in the States, especially at international level. If you went back 15, 20 years and looked at where those players were placed and who they were playing for compared to the players now, I think the level has been normalized, and therefore the expectation is maybe out. It's just a little bit out of sync. So I would, without wanting to like be the preachy, condescending European football fan, I'd be like, just enjoy them, and maybe.
I think it's great advice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, you got a centre midfielder playing for Juventus. So that's and another guy playing for Milan. Well, a couple of like you've got these players peppered around these legendary clubs.
Yeah.
And yeah, maybe it's just one or two generations more before it really starts to.
Yeah, it just feels like the expectations are just so high, and I'm like,
I mean, look, I'm English. We're supposed to have won every single World Cup, even the ones that we didn't qualify for. Like recent,
And then I think someone did actually point out to me that England has never beaten the US in a World Cup, and I was like, wow.
Yeah, drew the last time. Yeah,
that's actually true. That's a crazy statistic. Do you have feelings about the England team and heading into this? And because they are consistently in the conversation in terms of favorites, if you will. Do you buy that?
I think they're in the conversation. Yeah, I think they're probably one of the four. You would probably be like, if you're going to pick 4 semi-finalists without mapping it out on at the top of my head, I think you would probably put them in there. Mm-hmm. But I think that's just purely on a talent and a coach level. I don't think there are probably like 4 or 5 teams that have the talent and the coach combo. Like, I'm not the most wildly passionate England fan.
Okay.
Like I think that I don't know. It's some. I don't know why. I think maybe it was like moving abroad and just getting like. So do you know what? I feel like the equivalent of those astronauts, like looking back at the place that you've just come from, being like, oh, like I see everything in a different light, maybe.
Yeah.
So I don't know. It can be. So maybe that's bad. Maybe I'm a bad.
No, I don't.
Bad Englishman.
I think.
But,
I mean, in some ways, I think I feel that as well. I'm much more club than country, and especially like my husband is a head coach, like that team, like I live and die by the one Knox results, I mean, and it sounds ridiculous. So it's like, there's only so much room in my soccer loving heart, like that I can give. And I'm hoping that during the World Cup, yes, I will be all in for the US. And of course I want them to do well. And, but I'm kind of with you. I don't have like a massive, like,
it's not. I'm not quite an atheist, but maybe agnostic.
Yeah,
is that the right term?
Agnostic.
I'm England. I'm national team agnostic.
I think that's absolutely fair enough.
I think also from like working in it, I think we all.
You get
I always joke to
disenchanted.
I know. I always joke to Musa being like the tournaments get more fun when England go out. And then you say that, and
everyone's like, "How dare you?
Why do you hate your country so much?" I'm like, no, just literally, I'm just talking about football. I'm literally just talking about football, like nothing else. Don't worry about it.
Oh God.
But yeah, I think they've got a decent chance. I think they're probably wobbling at the wrong time, and they've got a lot of players who look quite tired. But one of the deepest England squads for a long, long time.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
Thomas Tuchel is, I mean, he's a genius.
We love Thomas Tuchel.
Yeah.
Big Thomas TT fan over here. How are you going to consume the World Cup? Like, are you are you in a bar? Are you at home? Are you?
I'll probably be at home. Just save space.
Yeah.
We were going to try and come out for it, but I think it was just like, I don't know. We're still undecided, I think, but
it's amazing. I had, like I said, like from the minute it was announced that it was coming here in 2026, I was like, oh, well, clearly I'm going to be going to like 10 matches, and I'm not one.
If you have $10 million,
I was
you
like,
probably get like 5 tickets. Yeah.
Not one. Knoxville is only 3 hours from Atlanta. I was like, oh, I could make that trip. It's just not happening. Not happening.
Yeah.
I would, if I could go. I've never been to Vancouver, and I have heard that it is just a spectacular place. So I would love to go to Vancouver and watch a World Cup match, or the Azteca. Like, I think those would be like my two. If I could choose, I would go.
It's really funny because Musa and I spoke about like, oh, what should we do? And we were like, Mexico or Canada maybe might be quite fun. So if we do go out, I think we might do a little bit, because at least it's just, I think it's
Monterey is supposed to be incredible.
And Vancouver was a shout. We were like, let's just go to Vancouver for a bit. It'd be, why don't we do our Stadio studio in Vancouver? And it's going to be like,
if you guys do that, I'll fly to Vancouver and come watch you do live shows. I'll be your PA.
Trying to convince all of the kickback lot to relocate to the most expensive World Cup city ever.
I know
for the tournament.
New York City, guys, come on. Let's think outside the box.
But New York is like, it's like one of my favorite places on earth.
It's wonderful.
It's just,
I lived there for many years and I miss it terribly. Knoxville's great, but it is. New York is, it's one of a kind. One of a kind. Okay, before I let you go, we do like a 5 social questions, like quick fire kind of situation. So I'm going to ask you 5 questions, and just whatever is top of mind.
Go on out.
Feel free to say it. All right. Who is your favorite athlete?
Whoa.
Doesn't have to be soccer player.
Ever?
Yeah.
Oh God. I mean, soccer player wise, my favorite football player ever is Johan Cruyff. So maybe I'll just throw that out there.
That's lovely. That's a great answer. Can't be beat.
Yeah. Oh, like actual other athletes, I'd probably have to think about that. So I'm going to leave Johan as my guy.
That's a perfectly acceptable answer. We'll take it. What is your walk-up song? Are you familiar with walk-up songs?
Is like in
baseball, guy comes up to the bat and they're like blasting something.
Interesting.
Yeah.
See, I don't know, because I imagine everyone goes for like quite hype stuff.
Yeah.
Right? I'd probably try and go the other way.
Oh.
Yeah. Like, I don't know, either something like just something quite low key, Or maybe something super weird, maybe like a Sun Ra tune or some like weird spacey jazz thing. Just because everyone I think if you were in a baseball stadium and that came on, it's not very baseball. You'd be like, what they play? Why is he playing Nuclear War by Sun Ra? That's not a And also though, I would say I'm terrible at these kind of things. I've like when people ask me, like, oh, you can only have one album. Well, I'm like, no. Like,
that's impossible.
Like, sign me off for that. But yeah, I'd probably go there, not a hype.
I like
tune.
it.
Yeah.
I like it. What is your favorite sound in sports?
Okay, so I'm going to go some football ones, if that's all right, because we're talking about football. So the net at the Westfalenstadion in Dortmund, we've actually asked people at Dortmund and the Bundesliga about this before. Shouts to Seb Stafford-Bloor, my good friend who works for The Athletic. We've asked about this before and we've talked about it. So there's a specific goal which actually was assisted by Gio Reyna. Haaland against PSG in the Champions League 2020, just before COVID, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want to go on YouTube, anyone wants to go on YouTube, hear the sound of the net. It's very specific. It was a part of a bit of a Stadio legendary German commentary, which Jans Platter, the DAZN commentator in German, was just like, Haaland, super Tor. He does this. It's very, very cool. I'd say also maybe like the barring in just sounds so good. It's so good. And also I think when you hear fans watching the replay of a goal and you hear the oohs and ahs of the replay, I think is really cool.
I love that. One of my friends said is similar to that. It's like the sound the crowd makes before a goal is scored, like the build up, like that, like sort of crescendo. And I was like, oh, that's a good one.
Yeah. That slight like moment of silence when you know something's going to happen. I mean, fun, like almost like NBA hot mics are quite funny as well. Like the Carmelo Anthony, like, get the fuck out of here on the rebounds was very funny.
So good.
But I think just something about like the sound of barring in or some of the nets that just like,
I love that.
That's great.
That's great. Okay, your favorite World Cup moment?
Oh my god, I don't know if it was on English TV, but there was a really legendary Per Mertesacker interview post game in 2014 when I think he was interviewed by the German media. I think it might have been Algeria, and they kind of scraped through, and I think it was extra time. I think it was Algeria game. And basically he just kind of shrugs his shoulders and he does this thing of being like, what do you want from me? Like, I'm knackered. I'm going to go and have an ice bath. Like, why are you asking me about this? And it was just like this really legendary kind of, and I love Per Mertesacker, and I think that was quite cool. It's not really a footballing one though.
No, but that's great. That's a World Cup moment.
I think Pirlo's free kick against England in 2014 that didn't go in. I think if it had gone in, but I think that the fact that it hit the bar and everyone was so confused by it, just one of those kind of like straight away when you're like, what the hell just happened?
Yeah, because
everyone looked so confused. Iconic. And then you see the replay behind, and it's Pirlo.
Iconic. And it's Pirlo. Exactly. Okay, last one, putting you on the spot. Who is going to win the 2026 World Cup?
I can't say Infantino, can I?
No. Oh, gross.
I know.
Boo.
Do you know what? Spain.
Yeah, that's a sexy pick.
I think they might. I think a lot of people are maybe focusing their attention elsewhere, and I think Spain might.
I agree. Yeah. I agree. Very talented group. Ryan, thank you.
Thanks
so
for
very much. I can't tell you how much I enjoyed this. Feel like I could just sit and chat with you all day.
Same.
I hope
great.
This is not the last time we get to do this because it was so much fun.
No,
You're
thanks
awesome.
so much for having me. No, you too. And say hello to Ian and Leslie.
Oh my God, Leslie's just gonna die.
We'll have to try and like return the favor and get the GM or
my gosh.
and the sporting director, head coach of Knox on Stadio or something.
Amazing. Again, just thank you so much for the time. Keep
great.
Doing what you're doing. Before we let you go, tell people how to find you and listen to you guys.
So you can search for Stadio, a football podcast, wherever you get your podcasts. The Monday episodes are out on that free feed. If you want to get ad-free episodes of all of that and the rest of them, you can go to patreon.com/Stadio and sign up for.
Do it.
You know, I suppose for Americans, it's probably like a coffee a month.
Yeah.
I think maybe.
Yeah.
But yeah, like Stadio Football on Instagram and all of that.
Amazing.
So, yeah.
You won't regret it, guys. Ryan, you're the best. Tell Musa I said hey,
I will do. He's gonna
I
be
look
so jealous.
I look forward to chatting with him very soon. And most importantly, thank you guys for checking us out, for watching and listening. Make sure you download and subscribe to all of our podcasts. We've got Kickback Committee, Soccer Wise, and First Touch. That's our World Cup focused podcast. Subscribe to our newsletter. Follow us on all the socials, Blue Sky, Instagram, all the things, and tell your friends. We appreciate you. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.